start with nothing, a blank piece of paper and a pencil, a blank roll of film and a camera, and there's nothing. And then we create something out of this. And I realized something was happening. It was like, wow, what's it? Boom, boom, 3 shots. 3 shots. You're revealing something. You're revealing personality. You're revealing a situation. You know, to me, that's great portraiture. It's one of the coolest rooms in Nashville. It really is. There's just something about it. The sound is so beautiful in here. They have it engineered so perfectly that a lot of people want to be in this room. You know, it's just, the creativity is just swirling. And, you know, it's famous for a lot of music. It really is.
Welcome to Adventure in Art. My name is Ben Staley. Look, this is a storytelling channel. I put it in the banner of the channel page a couple months ago, and that was, you know, kind of the motto from then on. It's like, that's what we're focusing on, storytelling in many different forms. Well, today we have a master storyteller on the channel. This is a nearly an hour-long conversation that you're not going to want to miss. You need to stay all the way to the end. This is as much a master class in photographic portraiture as it is anything. Today you're going to meet my new friend, Ed Rohde. So I was in Nashville. I had a little speaking gig, a couple kind of talks that I was giving at a camera store in Nashville. The shout out to the Pixel Connection. While I was there, I see this guy poring over this book, talking about some portraits in this book. And so I kind of leaned in and inserted myself into the conversation. And that's how I discovered Ed Rohde's work. And he was going through his book and he was showing one of the people in the store. And I just inserted myself into that situation. And I think within 10 minutes, I decided Ed and I need to be friends. and we are friends now. And once my speaking gigs were over, he invited me over to Ocean Way Studios, which is a legendary studio in the heart of Music Row in Nashville. And we hung out for several hours. He showed me around. We just kind of had a roving 4 or 5 hour conversation, some of which I taped. So let's get into it. This one's a little longer. Stay with me. It's a good one. Here we go.
Everybody's been in this room. This room they use this room to do soundtracks to movies. I photographed some of my favorite people in this room. Sheryl Crow, Keith Urban, Alice Cooper, Motley Crue to Willie Nelson. One of my favorite stories is photographing Willie in here. You know, Willie was here doing a Ray Price tribute. And I got to spend some time with Willie, hearing some of the best music in the world, some Ray Price stuff. And Willie was putting his touches on it. And so just being in the same room, listening to Willie sing right in front of you into that microphone, you know, it's life-changing. There's nothing like it, you know. Like I say, he's one of my favorite human beings on the planet. And to get near that, be near that, and see that creativity happen, I mean, that's what made me start this project, was these situations I found myself in. I had to document them. These people were important and special. They were doing things that would last generations. You're changing people's lives. That's what music does. When you put words and music together, I mean, it's a powerful, powerful form. And people live by these soundtracks. And that just drew me closer to the fire. And so, you know, that was the fuel I needed to spend a lot of years hanging around a lot of sessions, a lot of people, a lot of performers. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Ed. Thanks for doing this, dude. Dude, okay.
Welcome to Nashville.
Thank you, sir. Your book's incredible.
Thank you.
I want to get to it. My brain is overflowing with things I want to ask you. It was so cool to meet you and looking at your book and looking at that body of work that is, I think it stands alone and it's incredible. It's a testament, of course, to your talent and your skill, but it's really a testament to you as a person and your storytelling ability, which is which is not something you can buy.
No, you can't.
And so I want to unpack all that. How did this come about? How did you get to a point where you could put together a body of work like that?
Oh my gosh, where do I start with that? I say when I first moved to Nashville, I was working for the afternoon newspaper.
Okay.
And I was a photojournalist. I'm still a photojournalist. I got to say, photojournalism is my training. You know, that is what made me who I am. And so one of my first assignments for this newspaper was to go out and photograph a quote unquote a number one party, which is a gathering of musicians, songwriters, artists, and they celebrate a number one on the radio. And the first guy when I walked in the room and shook hands with a guy named Chet Atkins, and probably the architect of the Nashville sound. This man was a genius on the guitar. Matter of fact, there he is right there. There's my portrait.
So cool.
And his practice office where he never let anybody photograph. And we got to know each other pretty quickly, and he invited me up to his office. And we used to sit there and chat. He would ask me about the newspaper business, what I was shooting, what I was covering. I asked him about the music business. I was so green. My first year in town, man. But I knew who Chet was because my dad was a guitar teacher, and I grew up. He taught Chet style. And so every minute of my life was Chet Atkins or some influence of Chet Atkins.
What's Chet style? Tell to the
Finger
maybe
style.
the kids that don't know.
Finger style guitar, where you're plucking melody and bass line all at the same time. It sounds like two instruments playing, and he developed
low end,
that.
high end, all at the same time.
All at the same time. And so that beautiful music that he made famous, and then he became a producer in Nashville, and he had his hand in so many types of what makes Nashville what it is today. He was part of that architecture. He developed that sound, produced those acts. And so Chet was a major figure in my life, of course, because of my father, but just in music in general. Chet Atkins, still known as the man. They still have celebrations for Chet. And he's been gone for a long time now, but they have a Chet Atkins Appreciation Society where they have, once a year, they get together in Nashville, and hundreds of people come to town just to celebrate Chet. And of course, this happens all over the world.
Well, dude, yes, and this just takes me back maybe to a place to start. Now, you think about music scenes geographically,
Yeah.
okay? Now, just think about, there's a certain kind of Chicago blues.
True.
Right? There's like New York punk rock.
Yeah.
There's like LA heavy metal from the 80s.
Sure.
Or even the LA, the kind of Laurel Canyon folk music from the 60s.
Completely different, but still.
Yes. Grunge in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle.
Yeah.
Do these places have a certain power? What is it about Nashville? Like, if there's something in the water here. What is it?
There is something in the water here, or the air. Because everybody who comes to Nashville feels this creativity. We live in like a little bowl here where it just seems like it floats around. And when people come to town, I don't know what it is, but it just, they get this inspiration. I've heard so many iconic musicians, iconic songwriters have told me there's something in the air here. When they got to Nashville, things changed. And also, Nashville's a melting pot. All the great players of the world come here with guitars on their backs, thinking they're going to make it. And so it's this melting pot of talent that just starts getting, moved around in this town. And it's always, even though Nashville right now is a very, very big city, when I came here 30 plus years ago, it was a smaller town, but there was a family element to it. There was always that. And even today, it's still a small city on the music scene. Everybody knows each other. And that's part of the charm. And the other thing about Nashville is everybody is geographically located very close to each other. We're not far apart. We're all in this little region of Nashville. And so there's a lot of cross-pollination happening. Mm-hmm. That's what makes country music and all types. It's not just country in Nashville. You got Americana, you've got bluegrass, you got, oh my gosh, where do you want to go? It all happens here, but it's everybody in this mixing bowl together, and they all influence each other. And, some of the greatest players live down the block, and I see them at Kroger. And you just develop relationships with these people. And I've been fortunate over the years where just hanging around and being exposed to these amazing opportunities around these amazing people to recognize maybe history happening.
Yeah.
And that's where, harken back to Chet, one of the things I asked him early on as a photojournalist, I was like, I want to do a story. I am so curious. I am so excited about this new town, Nashville. What's this place about? And Chet looked him in the eye and said, young man, this place is a place of songwriters and musicians, and you need to go hang out with those people.
he kind of gave you a mission.
He
said,
blessed
go
me.
forth, young man.
He blessed me and says, I'm going to make some phone calls for you. And he started me on this campaign to document songwriters and musicians. Of course, the first thing I said, wow, are there a lot of songwriters in Nashville? That's how green I was. I had no idea
You
how
didn't even know.
how deep this pool was.
Yeah.
And Chet threw me right in the middle of it and said, swim back to shore, man.
I think it's so amazing. I've always say this, and I've sort of come into the realization of this only in the last few years because I'm a slow learner. But as humans, we're really hardwired to be storytellers. We've evolved to be who we are today because our great ancestors wanted to share their experiences. How did they do this first? Probably smashing rocks together into a rhythm or beating on animal skins and then singing and vocalizing. Yep. The first stories we told each other were definitely songs, the ones that lived on, and we're still carrying on that tradition. We have better instruments and better ways of recording them. It's the same thing, our ancestors used to draw in caves. Now we have these fantastic cameras, which as a photographer.
Of course.
The impulse is the same, the tools just get better.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe songs and songwriting is maybe the oldest and most sacred form of storytelling, right?
I felt a kinship to the songwriters and musicians I was hanging around with. This kinship was, we start with nothing, a blank piece of paper and a pencil, a blank roll of film and a camera, and there's nothing. And then we create something out of this. They create 3-minute stories, 3-minute, pieces that the soundtrack of people's lives.
Yes.
And here I am, what am I creating? I'm trying to capture moments. I'm trying to capture spots in history that won't ever happen again. And there are so many in this town that happen all the time that change people's lives. Because, listen, and this is not unusual, I grew up reading every line of every album I purchased. Every line. Who wrote it? What were the lyrics?
Same.
Who produced it?
When you open that album or the CD, you just read the whole damn thing.
Everything.
Like you want to soak up all that information.
And every photo.
Yes.
I tried
Who
to
took the photos?
double meanings. What does this really mean?
Yes.
Is there something behind this?
Yes.
And so I got to know the producers. I got to know the songwriters, and it was like, and the musicians were last, but it was like, wow, this is incredible. So when I moved to town, I felt, when I started meeting the songwriters, when I started hanging out with the musicians, I felt this kinship. And it was like, wow, we're kind of doing the same thing. We're trying to tell stories. I'm doing it with my tool, a camera, some film, and they're doing it with their tool, a guitar, a piano, a piece of paper. I mean, I know a lot of lyricists, just a pencil and paper.
Yes.
And they're putting down poems, and they're changing people's lives. And it affected me. It affected me growing up. Every part of my life that I care to remember, there's a song connected with it.
Yes. You hear a song and it takes you right back to that experience or that time of your life where that song was, you first heard it and it first impacted you.
Truth.
And literally songs are like the history of our lives. I'm the same way, man.
Absolutely. And so I wanted to be connected to that because it changed me. And here I found myself hanging around these sessions, and I realized that there was no documentary happening. There was no filmmaking happening. People were too busy creating. And here I was as a photojournalist. And let me tell you, photojournalism is my training.
Yes.
I came up as a photojournalist. I mentored as a photojournalist. And so I love history, and I love moments. And I try to put those things together in a sense of how important is this going to be 5 years down the road or 10 years. And you don't always know. You can't predict the future. But man, if you go, there's instinct involved, and if you feel like you're you're there, and it may be something minuscule, or nobody else would notice. A light coming through a window, somebody working on a lyric, a guitar moving in a certain direction, but it's all part of a bigger movement that tells this story of what this person or this group may be doing. I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to tell the story, because ultimately, as a photojournalist, I'm a storyteller.
100%. What's the most important component to a good portrait?
You know, portraits are situational. You know, what are you there for? What's your surroundings? What's happening? What's the light? What access do you have? And so they change. You have to bend with the situation you're in. And so that's the trick to great portraiture. I mean, sometimes you're hired by somebody to shoot somebody. And so there's pressure there. There's business pressure. There's time pressure. There's management pressure. That's a different portrait situation than just hanging out with a songwriter in a room while they're trying to write. You know, and so you have to kind of figure out what situation you're in, what's possible, how important it is, what are you trying to get out of it. Sometimes you're in situations where a great portrait isn't possible, but maybe the next situation you're in may give yourself something that you're not really ready for. And you have to think ahead so much. You know, you got to know what situation you're in, what light you have, what opportunity may lay in front of you, but then you got to be thinking ahead a little bit. What's going to happen so you can get in the right spot? Is there a place I need to be to make a great portrait? A lot of times you're moving quickly, or maybe you're thinking ahead and you're in the right spot. But great portraiture to me is you're revealing something. You're revealing personality. You're revealing a situation. You know, to me, that's great portraiture. And that can come in many forms. That can come in many light situations. But the key is that you're cognizant of it. You know something's happening. And if you can reveal a little personality, if you can reveal a little something that might, 5 years down the line, you might not think much about it now, but you get down the road a little bit, you think about, wow, I remember that time I was with so-and-so. Here, let me show you this, and it reveals a moment caught in time that can never happen again.
Yes, of like understanding how to take the moment and push it over the edge to be more iconic and to have a deeper meaning.
Hugely. And a lot of times, time has to pass. You can't tell when you're in the moment if this is going to be something cool or not. Sometimes, I shoot a picture, visually it just clicks and I go, wow, that's pretty cool. I'm impressed, and I'm jaded. I am jaded. If I see something visually I capture and I look at it and it captures me, just immediately. I try not to get too high or too low. I make a mental note about it, and I stay in the mode. Sometimes people, I see them eating up their cameras, and they forget what's happening around them. And there's a better moment that happens 2 seconds later, but they're too busy looking at it,
Yes,
And
yes.
so, again, situational in many ways. What's happening? Can you shoot? Can you look? Can you cheat a little bit? Or can you stay in the moment and just keep plugging away?
And I know you're always looking I know you walk in a room and you're clocking all the light.
Bingo.
Oh, that window over there is money. I would like that background. If I'm here, you're seeing that within 2 seconds of walking in a room.
What the light is, what the light temperature of the room
Yes.
is. Is it hard light? Is it soft light? Where are my subjects?
Yes.
Is there any type of modeling, natural modeling happening? I mean, as a visual storyteller, I size up everything and I do it. I don't think about it.
It's natural. It's happening all the time. You walk down Kroger's. You're walking down the aisle in the grocery store.
believe
You're
it.
like, oh, this is a good spot right here. I like that little.
There's a little shaft of light coming through the window. You're
Yep.
kind of going, wow, those Kellogg's cornflakes look amazing.
Exactly.
If you do it every day, if you build it into your natural brain, your thought process. Let me take that. If you build that into your natural thought process, it can become natural. If you don't do it, it's hard because you got to look around, you got to understand the lighting process, to understand color temperature, softness, hardness, all the stuff. It takes a minute to kind of put it, but it's like riding a bike.
Yes.
Once you learn to ride that bike,
yes,
you can hop on that bike anytime.
100%. And it takes the reps of like understanding, oh, this color isn't going to work.
That's right.
You have to have done it. You have to have failed. You have to have tried, and you're like, that doesn't work. I'm not doing that again. So for every good picture, there are dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of places where it didn't really work.
Thousands.
And those moments sting, but all those are earned. This is earned through all that failure, right?
Absolutely. You cannot be afraid to fail.
Yes!
You have to go out there. You have to put yourself out there. And it can be embarrassing at times.
Yes.
If you don't put yourself out there, if you don't walk that bridge, you'll never get to the other side of that river.
It's like these guys, they got to get up on stage.
You better believe it.
And be out of tune a couple times, or to figure it out, or to miss it. You know, it's like you've got to get the reps in, and you've got to fail so that you know how to succeed.
And those are just the steps you have to take as for me as a photojournalist, as a storyteller,
as an artist,
that you take. I have tens of thousands of failures. I won't show you, but I can show you terabytes worth of failures and hundreds of rolls of oops. And those sometimes lead to successes.
Yes.
And if you don't, you have to be curious.
Yes.
You have to be curious. I go back to that. If you're not curious, if you don't have some type of thought process that wonders, wow, I want to be in that other person's shoes. What are they experiencing? What are they bringing to the table? I'm very curious. I always want to know the story. I always want to know the background. Again, I feel like I'm a misplaced historian in a way.
You are this is history. This is history. This is a very special, very unique, singular history.
I realize there are not a lot of 34-year documentaries out there. And I self-published, and and trust me, it takes a village to do this. And I had support. The only way I could do this was support in my little world. But again, it's this history that I was witnessing. That I wanted to get something of this because I didn't know. I didn't know a lot of things. When I was hanging around the Dixie Chicks, the Chicks now. Yes. I had no idea that where they were going in their career. I met so many. Chet, Willie, Waylon, some of the great people that
they were probably superstars when you got around to meeting them because they started back in the 50s and 60s, right?
Well. Chet started in the 60s, 50s, and 60s. Waylon was 60s, and Willie was actually 60s too. And when I got around them after 1990, they were established icons.
Yes, icons, iconic. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I grew up with Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings. Are you kidding me? I mean, what I would give to be in a room with those guys. Of course, Waylon's not with us anymore, and Willie's in his 90s.
When Johnny Cash walked into a room, you could hear the footsteps, and you can hear his voice echo through the hallway, and it was like stomp, I'm Johnny Cash, and it was like everybody turned. The man couldn't walk into a room without the whole room turning to him. It was absolutely, the charisma, the history. You didn't have to know much about the man to know how important he was. It's like my portrait of Willie.
Show us.
A brilliant songwriter named Hank Cochran made the phone call. He says, Willie's my best friend. Actually, Hank Cochran was responsible for Willie Nelson being in Nashville. That's a long story, but you need to look into that. But Hank called Willie, and this was the early 90s, and he says, you gotta meet this boy. He's doing a story on songwriting. And so this thing about Willie was, I got the invitation to come on his bus for the first time, and this is the early 90s. He just finished some television show, and he was dressed in a tuxedo. and did I knock it out? Is it good?
No, it's good. It's all good.
He just finished a television show, and he's dressed in a tuxedo, and I get the invitation to come on the bus, and I bring my Hasselblad with me and a little tiny bulb light, and I didn't know what to expect, man. Well, I walked into this blue haze.
Oh, dude, it's Willie Nelson.
It's Willie's bus. You got to, hey, come on. When you're with Willie, when you shake Willie's hand.
Yeah.
And so I of course grew up with Willie too, and so the man was the most gentle, beautiful human being, and so welcoming. And you're Hank Cochran's friend. Come on in, man. Sit down. And he went to the back of the bus. There was already a party going on in the back of the bus, but he went through the party, came out with Trigger, his guitar, and he took me to the front of the bus, which was quiet. It was still hazy, but I used that haze. I wanted that haze, and we sat down, and he put his guitar in his lap, and I looked at him. In a split second, I thought to myself, how am I going to photograph the man that's been photographed 100 million times?
Yes.
What can I bring to the world he has brought so much to the world visually, not even
Master
sonically.
storyteller.
Not even sonically, but visually.
Visually, yes.
And I thought to myself, well, how can I reach him? Well, how do I reach all my other songwriter friends? I said, Willie, what song are you working on? And for that split second, he looked at his hands where his pick was. He was holding his guitar pick, and that split second snap. Wow! And he started playing, and he went on for 20 minutes.
Playing his new song.
He just played a song, played another song, fiddled around a little bit, played
Just
some
sat
more.
there right in front of him, audience of one. Audience of one.
He and I. The party was happening in the back of the bus. He and I were at the front of the bus. Smoke a little bit, play a little bit. It was. I couldn't believe it. It was like, there I was. I got a 20-minute private concert, but it was that first moment, that first question. This first shot.
That's the first shot you ever took of Willie Nelson.
And it was that, boom, it happened. And now I've got, it was 2 1/4, so I got 12 shots. I may have shot 10 or 12 shots.
You shot a roll.
Just one roll, and that was it. And then to me, it became after. Now, in those days, when you have film, I didn't have a Polaroid with me.
Yeah.
I was just shooting. I realized I got something before. I realized I got some stuff in the middle. I realized I got a picture of him looking at me. We did another real confrontational portrait. And after 20 minutes, he invited me back to the party, and that was it. And so it was, to me, it was another day.
Yeah.
I had another job the next morning. I went home. I think I waited a week to develop the film, and I developed the film. And I souped everything. Back in those days, I loved to print. I loved to soup. I loved to do everything about it. I wanted to take every process of this film and handle it. I didn't trust anybody else, I felt like I just the 20-minute private concert, and then afterwards, he was so gentle and wonderful and complimentary. He is who he is.
Yes.
He's an icon,
Yes.
and he's one of the most beautiful humans I've ever met. Just everything about him, and I was lucky enough to be in that space that first time for that private concert, and I've been around him a lot, but I never forgot that moment. I developed that film, and I looked at it, and that one moment of him looking at his pick, it was almost like this thought. You can see this introspection happening.
Oh, dude, it's a beautiful, beautiful portrait. And talk about a guy that's been photographed a lot. And honestly, I will confess this. I have my own private list of people I'd want to photograph the most, and Willie Nelson's at the top of that.
Oh, sure.
And he won't be with us very much longer.
I know.
But his face is amazing, and his album. I kind of grew up with Red-Headed Stranger.
Sure.
From the early '70s.
Great album.
And that album to me is cinema. It's cinema.
It's storytelling.
It's storytelling at the highest level. It's
Absolutely.
a freaking movie. I mean, he made a movie about it, but
Yeah.
But it's okay. So, thank you for sharing that, Ed. That is so amazing. Now pick one.
Yeah.
Look, no. Listen. You don't. Everybody's not Willie Nelson. Okay, it's like everybody is not kind and sweet and compassionate. Sometimes you show up to a situation and it's combative, or someone has had a bad day, or they don't really want you there. Can you tell a story like that, of like where you turned it around a little bit? Do you have one of those in there?
Oh man, I have to think about that a second. I've been very lucky.
You just have such a good demeanor about you, but sometimes people are just like not in the mood. Is there any of those, or what do you do? It's happened. I know it's happened.
I tell you what, Loretta Lynn.
Okay.
Loretta
okay.
Lynn, I was lucky enough to photograph her many, many times over the years.
Legend.
Talk about a songwriter. This woman changed the world with her songwriting.
Yes.
Her point of view.
Yes.
In a time where women didn't have the representation that they needed to have.
Coal miner's daughter.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And so at one time I was there, I was invited to a Loretta Lynn performance at a venue in town, and I got stuck in traffic. I couldn't get past security. Everything that was supposed to be, it went wrong. And so I ended up missing the performance. So I went backstage. I knew she was coming out, and this was purely, I just wanted to say hello and chat with her for a few minutes. And as she came through, she saw me and smiled. And then she stepped into almost to the door, and there was light that was coming down. I don't know if it was a spotlight or something, but it was some type of security light. But there was a light that came down, and it almost just highlighted her. It just lit her in her white dress. And she looked down as she stepped towards me to say hello. And I snapped one frame. Another one framer, because it was just a quick, oh my God, snap. And then, hey, Loretta, how are you? I forgot about the moment. Left it. Maybe a month later, I'm looking at some takes and I see this picture of Loretta, and it's almost like an angel. She looks like an angel. And I forgot about it. Oh, that's cool. Check mark it. And then I leave it alone. Years later, 20 years later, no, probably 10, 15 years later, I'm doing my book, and I have other pictures of Loretta that I love, that I was shooting through the years. I was shooting her through the years, and I have other pictures that I love. But I was digging through my library, and I was like, wow, I forgot about this. What is this? And it was this angel moment. And I already had 2 pictures picked for the book for her, and I kicked them out.
Wow. Just that happenstance, boom.
At that moment that I wasn't expecting, that I couldn't get to her.
You're frazzled, nothing worked out.
I missed everything.
But you walk in the door and you're ready.
I missed everything.
Yes.
And I just wanted to say hello to her, and I missed everything. And then this moment happened. I shot it one frame and then forgot about it.
Wow.
And then literally 15 or 20 years later, I discovered it and I put it away, and it was like, this is a lot more than I thought it was. Mm-hmm. And time has passed, and she has left us. And it just, this picture meant so much to me personally, because she does look like an angel in this.
What are the things that you do, Ed, to make sure that you, as the photographer, as the person, is sort of interfacing with the situation correctly?
Well,
what do you do?
Let me tell you a story about Dolly.
Yeah, let's hear this. I love this. Yes.
The Dolly, and I, again, have been lucky enough to have been around Dolly for years.
Whoa, man.
And she is such a pro. There's another human being like Willie.
Yes.
I can't, there's another superlatives to talk about Dolly.
Yeah.
She is amazing. Everything about her is amazing. Her songwriting, her acting, where do you want to go? There's a list that's this long with Dolly.
They broke the mold. Like there's one Dolly Parton.
It's amazing. So I was with her, and this was early 2000s, and
Okay.
we were at a television production actually somewhere across town, and it was just this real quick interview thing, and she had showed up, and she's her usual Dolly self. Just happy, a pro, anything, you got it. I mean, just the best professional to work with. I mean, she has her Dolly face on. Mm-hmm. It's Dolly, the smile, the energy. And then the interview sort of stopped. And I was there just doing some documentary work. The show was actually at this kind of open mall area that they're doing some country music production in. And I was sitting there, and I chatted with her for a couple minutes. And then we went to a commercial break. And then there was a monitor. I was sitting down, she was standing. There was a monitor past me on the left-hand side. And this monitor all of a sudden popped up. And it was Dolly and Porter Wagoner back in 1967, because Porter put her on his show and helped discover Dolly. And there was Dolly and Porter singing a duet. And it was black and white. And for 5 seconds, she caught that, and her eyes went down past me. And I realized something was happening. It was like, wow, what's it? Boom, boom, 3 shots. It was just so, I had to move so fast, I wasn't even thinking, because she changed. She was Dolly, and then she went, and I felt like she was going back in time.
Yes.
She was watching Porter and herself singing a duet.
Yes.
And it was one of those moments, again, I filed away,
Yes.
didn't think about it. It took 4 or 5 years later, and I was going through my work, and I realized I got some great Dolly photos, but all of a sudden I feel like, wow, I really feel like this is Dolly here.
That's a moment, that's a real authentic moment that just resonates, and it's deeper.
Authenticity is so hard to find.
Yes, it is, right? It sounds silly. It can't be faked. It's either authentic or it's not.
There's some great actors out there, but you know authenticity when you run up on it.
Yes.
It just kind of, it hits me. I feel it.
Yes, you feel it like you start getting goosebumps when something's really happening, right? Like your spidey sense, your instincts just go. And what is it about that of like instincts?
Yeah.
Electricity?
Yeah.
How do you stay tuned in to like the magic as it begins to happen? Because it does. These people are like conductors, like they're pulling in energy from somewhere, and that's how they create these things, right?
Oh,
and you're sort of, you have to be tuned into that as a photographer, as a filmmaker, as a visual storyteller, right?
You better believe it. You got to read the room. I mean, if you don't have the ability to read the room and know what's happening emotionally, I mean, situationally, you know, you can't just walk in, barge in with a camera and stick it in somebody's face.
Yes.
You're immediately going to get ejected.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you have to build trust.
Yes.
Whatever situation you're in, there has to be some familiarity, some trust, you know, something that allows you to photograph real private moments.
Yes.
And you have to build that trust. If you don't have that trust, this could be a celebrity, this could be a musician, this could be your mother, your sister, you could be the man on the street. If there has to be some transaction there of authenticity and trust to allow you to bring up a camera and be, and this is an old term, a fly on the wall.
Yes.
And if you can be a part of a group or situation and become that observer and be trusted enough to actually a few times capture a few moments and let them be themselves, and they want to be themselves. Because trust me, we live in a world now where sticking a camera in your face is a very natural thing. People
Yes.
grow up in it now, but authenticity breaks through that. And you've got to be able to spot that, find that, and then be ready for it to happen, because everything else that's happening, the whirlwind of life, whatever's happening in that situation, is your camera ready? Is a light ready? Are you in the right spot? Do you recognize the situation? And it's you're the artist. What angle do you want to take? Do you want to go low? Do you want to go high? Do you want to use a telephoto? Do you want to use a wide lens? All these decisions, these creative decisions, have to be made so you, as an artist, can do your job. And so that's the tough part. That's the stuff they have to do. It's like riding the bike. Once you do it a couple of times, you get more confident and you can make those creative decisions. But the trick
On the fly, you know the right choice, because you get one thing wrong and it just doesn't work the same way. You get too wide, you're too compressed, the light's just a little off. It doesn't work. It's all got to come together, and you've got to see that and know it.
and you have to do it. You know, you actually have to get past all that and not get frozen by I have 3 cameras and 6 lenses and 4 lights and this and this and that and that. And then all of a sudden, you've missed the moment because you're stuck in the minutia.
Answer me this. These questions just coming to me. So you have absolute legends in here, okay? So say you get a call in the next half hour. Hey, you're going to go down the street to this venue and you're going to go backstage and photograph. We'll pick a big artist today, like Casey Musgraves.
I love her. Yeah.
Would you be nervous? Well, like, how would you approach that? Would you be like, oh man, she's a beautiful girl, she's a really big star? Like, what do I do?
I wouldn't be nervous. I mean, nervous is great.
Yeah.
Nervous, you want to have something happening.
Yes.
If you come in flat and with no energy, then that's probably what you're going to come out of this with.
Yes.
And so Casey, I love her songwriting, and so I'm a big fan of her songs. And so to me, I would be really excited and to have an opportunity to spend a few minutes with her.
Yes,
You know, to talk
yes.
with her and maybe try to reveal a little bit of her personality, her situation. I would hope she'd be writing somewhere, and I would hope that that I could hang around and see some of that process and photograph
Yes.
some of that process, because you know I think historically she's going to be very important. You know, and
Yes, I agree.
And I'm guessing, I mean, history really, you have to have some time pass
Yes.
to really make historic decisions. You know, I mean, but in the moment, you can't take that chance. You got to be there. You got to participate. You got to shoot. You can't let anything stop you. You can't make those decisions now. So you have to put it on film, or you have to put it, on digital and save it, and then make your decisions later whether it's worth it or not.
Because we didn't really cover it, we just jumped into these things. Just tell me what this book is, what it represents, what it's called, what it is. Just tell me about the book.
This book is called Songwriter Musician. It is, this is going to sound bad, my love letter to Nashville. Yeah, well, this book I named it Songwriter Musician, Behind the Curtain with Nashville's Iconic Storytellers and Players. I've been lucky enough to have lived in Nashville for the past 35 years, and I've been around some amazing, talented musicians and songwriters. And early on, with the help of a legend, Chet Atkins, he kind of helped me distill an idea to start a documentary project on these folks. They were creating the music, the soundtrack of so many people's lives, and they were doing it in these small little buildings and little dark recording studios, and nobody was documenting this. They were documenting the entertainment side, the glitzy side, the other side of Music City, and I wanted to document the underbelly of it. Who's actually working these songs? Who's writing these songs? Who's coming up with these beautiful, creative 3-minute soap operas,
Yes.
And these musicians that would hear a piece of music and then 5 minutes later go lay down some lines on a guitar that'll be forever remembered. These genius musicians, and I don't throw genius around that much, but these musicians that hear music and then immediately create these wonderful, memorable lines that people relate to the rest of their lives. Who's doing this? And I wanted to go behind the scenes, and I wanted to document this.
Yes.
And so recording sessions, songwriting sessions, performances. I have portraiture. I have documentary style. I do a lot of different types of photography, and I wanted to bring it all to bear. 34 years, three decades of experiences with many artists. I had to draw a line and try to bring this story through. My first cut of this book was 350, 400 pages.
I just wonder, I know you must have just like an archive that is just phenomenal. How did you get it?
I had to cut it in half.
It's a heavy book, and how did you distill it down? Like, that's a job.
That hurt. That was painful. I had to make a lot of painful decisions. Who did I want to leave on the cutting room floor? Now, there will be hopefully a volume 2. I carried this project secretly for 3 decades. Wow. I didn't tell a lot of people.
Nobody knew what you were actually doing.
I was there doing other things a lot of times, and sometimes I was there doing this. I'd say, do you want to be part of my songwriter project? And they were like, what is it? And I described it, and they were like, oh my God, yes. I'm writing here, I'll meet you there, and they would set this up, and I'd go hang out. So sometimes it was for the book, and sometimes it was just me hanging around Nashville. So there's a lot of found stuff, and there's a lot of situational opportunities that I was able to take advantage of and capture moments. And so, after each decade, I would pitch this to a publisher and just get laughed out of the room. We don't care about songwriters.
Really?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Really?
Absolutely. We want the celebrity element. Do you have so-and-so that he or she is the celebrity of the moment?
These people are all celebrities though, right?
In my mind, they're celebrities because I know the songwriters. Mm-hmm. I know the musicians.
Yes.
I know the talent, the producers. We haven't talked about the artists yet, and there's some of these, they're artists, songwriters, musicians, they're everything. Some are.
Some of them, they do the whole damn thing.
And so as I got to live and breathe and hang around Nashville a little bit, I got to know who these people were and realize how lucky I was, because back in 1990, music was changing.
Yes.
You know, I mean, we've gotten through the 80s, and country music has always been, a mixing bowl of so many types of music.
Yes.
And it's always reflected what popular music is.
Yes.
And so it's always been influenced. You know, there's old country. Yeah, there's many types of country. You know, how many signs can you put on country? There's a lot of it. But it's always taken all those influences and then churned it up and put the country music mark on it and moved forward, because it's a storytelling medium.
Yes.
It's with country music, they're telling stories, man. And sometimes the stories can be the same. The great songs aren't. And they reveal.
Yes.
Just like great portraiture, when you reveal something, you always have that, you feel that. And I think people realize that. And that's why I think country music, music in general, has grown so much, because people need storytelling. It's a part of the human experience.
Yes.
And so, you know, to me, being a part of that, I always wanted, even though for years I'd given up on the book. You know, after you pitch it 2-3 times, seriously pitch it, and get laughed out of the room, then I became a little, well, screw you.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna. If you don't want it, I want it. It becomes a me thing.
Yeah, 100%. If you're like, I'm doing this.
I'm doing this.
Like you weren't waiting for permission. You're not waiting for a paycheck. You're like, I'm doing this. I'm telling this story. And if it takes 3 decades, who cares?
It was a project that it's still going on now. My first book is out, but I'm still shooting.
Yeah.
But it became, like I said, well, screw you. I'm going to do this.
An obsession.
And it did. And it was my little secret agenda. You know, it was like, okay, well, there's a lot of great things happening here. You may not realize it. I realize it. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to have my little second camera and document stuff when I see it, because I feel this is really important to music.
As an artist, how important is it to just kind of follow the beat of your own drum and develop your own projects and tell your own stories? How important is that?
Well, I mean, it's a part of any artist development. You know, you begin copying other ideas, copying other people's styles. You know, you're trying to develop and build yourself up. And so, trust me, there's so many beautiful, incredible photographers, photojournalists, documentary people out there. A lot of it's been done, but I always took it in. I love to take in so much of what's happening in the world, historically and now, and then kind of run it through my filter, because there's only one me.
100%.
And I can shoot it as I would shoot it.
Yes.
I have a lot of great influences, but I need to shoot it in a way that I would be happy. And you get that over time when you start building and shooting, and you start moving through your career as a photographer or as a visual artist. You get better at distilling moments and knowing maybe this could be something cool. Maybe I need to take this second and shoot this and document this, because this situation may never happen again.
Yes.
This moment, this room, these people.
Never.
And so to me, that became an obsession too.
Well, dude, okay. What is awesome is this work spans 30 plus years, 3 decades, but it's remarkably consistent.
Yeah.
Where the essence of you and the way you're relating to these people is the same. And obviously, maybe you use some different cameras. People change, they get older. Maybe you even change the way you're seeing things, but not really. Everything is all consistent, even throughout time. And I think that's remarkable. Okay.
There's a reason there's no dates in this book. There's a reason, because I didn't want people to be influenced.
Yes.
I want them to see the photo
Not
and
think
feel the
about
moment and think about, well, this was shot in 1990, or this was shot in 2001.
Yes, it's a choice.
I wanted tell this story with just the visuals. And then I would always, and also I dedicated the back part of the book to these biographies. A lot of folks don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
And I want to put these little bios back there so people can go back and read about these people. Why is Chet Atkins important? You know, believe it or not, there are a lot of people who don't know who Chris Christopherson was. You know,
she just passed like a few weeks ago.
Who is Chris?
Yeah.
Why is he important?
Yeah,
Who is
yeah,
John
legend.
Prine? Who is Guy Clark?
Legends.
You know, and those are super well-known legends in the songwriting community, but there are other folks in this book that people don't know about that have written the most amazing songs and have changed people's people's lives.
Yeah.
And so there are cut lines, and there is a little bio on everybody. I wanted people to come away hopefully visually educated, but I also wanted to tell more and put things in context.
Yes.
That's important too.
Yes. Okay, so mission accomplished. Someone wants to get better at shooting portraits.
Sure.
Maybe they're studio portraits, maybe they're documentary portraits. Just a piece of advice to the folks that I want to do better, more emotional storytelling portraits. What's some wisdom you can drop on us?
Well, there's a couple of things. A, keep shooting. Shoot.
Yes.
You have to shoot. You can talk about it, you can read about it, you can watch YouTube videos about it, you can do everything, but if you don't actually get out there and attempt it, you're not going to make any ground.
Amen.
And so get out there and do it. The next thing is find some people you love.
Find your grandma.
Find it.
Find your Uncle George.
I got 10, 12, 20, 30 photographers. I love to watch their work because everything they do, I find a little bit of education in. I am so curious about how this person did this. I dissect every photo I look at.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, where's the light? What's the situation? What kind of camera? I wonder what was that medium format? Was that digital? Was that film?
We're all looking at it how did you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the curious thing. That thing you can't, I wish I could stamp curious on people.
Yeah.
You have to come by it or naturally have it, and when you have that curiosity, I think then you can move forward because it's a long line of mistakes. It's a long line of misses.
Yes.
It's swings. There are very few home runs.
Yeah.
A lot of curveballs.
The home runs are rare, brother.
A lot of fastballs you're missing, but every experience that you come by, you walk into, you find yourself is a new experience that you can put in your bank, and you can use that somewhere down the line to hopefully get that photo that describes, that tells, that I love capturing a moment that'll last forever.
Yes.
That won't be repeated, that it reveals personality or reveals situation,
Yes.
or you can look at it, every time you look at it, you see something different. It's like a great painting.
Yes.
You can look at some of the masters and go, wow. Every time you look at it, you see something a little different.
Yes.
I strive for that in my imagery. But trust me, I shoot a lot. You guys only see a little bit of it. I think my best. I'm taking a chance by calling it my best. It may not be, but you got to do it. If you don't get out there and do it, what do you have?
Ed, I actually could talk to you about this all day. And I feel like we've been talking about this for the last 2 days since I got here in Nashville. I'm so glad I met you. It was like such a treat. It was a surprise. And thank you for the hospitality. How do people find you, and how do they find your book?
Man, it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed every minute of this. You could find this book at songwritermusician.com or edrody.com, and you can buy it there.
Thank you so much. And you're on the internet. You have an Instagram. You have a website, edrody.com.
Every one of I'm on all the channels, and it's my name.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, Ed, thank you so much. And dude, congrats on this work. Thanks for being so open. Thanks for sharing your process and your wisdom. And I'm a fan, and I'm gonna be seeing what you're doing in the future. And thank you, man.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for giving a rat's ass about
No,
this.
dude, are you kidding me? It's amazing.
Folks, I think Ed has revealed and shown us through his own actions what actually is possible with photography. I'm just so inspired by the book and by Ed's point of view. So thanks for watching. Thanks for getting this far. The links are all down below in the description. Shout out to the Pixel Connection for having me in Nashville. And let me just say before I leave, folks, support your local camera store. If you got one in your own hometown. Look, I know you can get everything you need on the internet shipped to your front door, but that's not what photography is about, okay? Photography is about human connection, especially if you're doing portraiture. So Get to know the folks at your local store. You'll meet other photographers. You'll meet the staff who are probably photographers too. That's what it's all about. It's about getting out of your house, getting out into the world, and interfacing with the world. Support your local camera store. Check out Ed's work. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again real soon.